Well, hello there and good morning and welcome. My gosh, do we have an interesting one for you today? Happy Friday, by the way. I hope you're getting ready for a great weekend. Let me just share my screen here. Oh, there we go. Welcome. I have a couple clients right now going through some extensive interview and really toward the end of that, the negotiation process. So I thought today's discussion might be really terrific to center on a few of the negotiation questions, which are pretty normal. So welcome to the Ask SelfRecruiter video session. You're going to get your job search questions really answered here. By the way, if I'm not covering your question, feel free to send it in. Just send it in to ask@selfrecruiter.com. And if it's a good question, we'll include it in one of the next broadcasts coming up. Now, if you haven't seen me before, John Crant, author, career coach, and speaker, resume and LinkedIn guru as well. A little bit about my background so you know where this advice comes from. It's 7 or 8 years in outside recruitment. 3.5 years of that was as a direct headhunter on a desk, having to go into the competitor company, lure out the superstar, and you get how that process works. Was also the national trainer across all 100 offices for a number of years. And as each potential recruiter would get hired, they'd come into my 90-day program to teach them how hiring really works. Not how people think it works, but how it really works. Of course, ended up being VP over all 100 offices before heading out to do what I do now, which is really work with individuals to elevate their career brands on their resume, their LinkedIn profiles, in their interview discussions. Let's get to today's questions. Well, I'm thinking I'm close to getting multiple offers. What should I do? And I'm worried about how to price myself. Well, a couple things to think about here. We're going to skip ahead and just center here a little bit. I want to talk about a couple different things here. If I'm close to an offer, this is the stage we have to start thinking about whether we're going to be able to get to multiple offers. And if we are, how do we negotiate? So, there was an earlier video talking about multiple offers. And, if you have one that's about to be extended to you, then what you need to do is try to slow that one down ever so slightly. Maybe being a little bit slower on returning one message, so it buys you maybe an extra half day, something like that. And on the other one or two that may be also close, but just a little bit further behind, you have to find a way to really share some insights with them as to what's going on with you, and that we'd hate to miss this simply based on timing. And maybe there's something together you can do to accelerate that decision process or timing. But once I get that offer, how is it I'm going to negotiate? Now, there's a couple different things. I might end up with one where it's a little bit shy of where I'd like to be financially. What am I going to do with that particular offer? Well, every time you negotiate, you're going to have to think carefully, because every time you negotiate, you could lose the offer. Therefore, if someone gets upset, if someone takes something you say the wrong way, if someone thinks you're maybe a little bit too full of your own abilities and they decide maybe we should have gone with the second choice, all those things could happen. So you have to step very, very carefully. Now, what you have to decide for yourself is this number worth the risk? What did they offer me? And am I willing to lose that offer and walk away? If you're willing to risk losing the offer and walking away, then you negotiate. Now, how we negotiate on something like this? Well, you're going to have to go back to them. You're going to have to figure out, what did you disclose to them on earlier forums, in earlier conversation? That's why we have to be very, very careful. Remember, as I teach in my interview intervention full lecture, the goal really is to get to this end stage of offer without ever having disclosed your past financial earnings or expected desired future salary. Let them put a number down that they think is appropriate for that role, good, bad, or ugly. Then you can negotiate from there once they fall in love with your skill set. Once they realize, I can't live without this person on my team. Numbers get a lot easier once you get to that stage. So once you take a look at the number they gave you, if it is worth the risk to you to try to negotiate that to a better place, if you're willing to lose that offer, then I recommend you take a hard look at the finances. If as an example, they extended an offer to you that was slightly below your prior comp package, I imagine you would like to negotiate, and yet you probably may not want to risk losing that offer. You have to be very, very careful. So in that case, if we hadn't disclosed earlier, which is really what you should not do, hold it back, now would be the time to lay that card on the table and really share some insights. Dear Jack, dear Jim, dear Jill, by the way, so excited to get started on whatever the start date they mentioned. They have to hear you're saying yes, even though you're not saying yes. I'm not actually going to say yes, but they're hearing all the indications that, boy, this is really going to happen for me. So, gosh, I'm really excited by the start date. Oh, well, the October 4th works fantastic. I have to ask you if there's any room on that negotiation for the number. What I did not disclose to you before is my total earnings comp was actually a little bit ahead of this offer. I'd love to keep myself financially whole. What can we do? And then you shift to collective language. What can we do to, make this, work for all of us? That's the start of getting them to go back to the well. One of the things to consider when you do have that negotiation conversation, whether you do it in writing or whether you do it in conversation on a phone or Zoom or whatever it might be, is if they think you want the money, they generally would not like to give it to you. If they think you need the money, then they generally try to find a way to give it to you. So this just trying to keep myself, my family financially whole, that's a magical phrase that says I'm not really a gold digger, although we all want as much gold as we can get. I really need to be compensated appropriately for what I bring to the table. This puts them in the mindset of trying to solve the problem by moving a few numbers around for the person whose skill set they've already fallen in love with, the person that they imagine is the future of that role. If it is handled carefully, it'll work very well. Let's take another question, which is really this idea of what if I get this offer back and everything seems fine, but we never did go near title in discussion. The title they were advertising is really not the right title for me. I'm one above that title. And yet I didn't push it because I wanted them to fall in love with me. I guess they did, and they made me this offer, but it's still at that stinky title. Is it? Can I change that now? Yes. Title for most organizations, I'm not going to say every organization, but for most organizations, the title is essentially somewhat of a throwaway give to you. Now, where it is not a throwaway give to you is when they have a very structured ranking trying to control overall compensation. Then certain titles may be squeezed into certain boxes, which may benefit you or probably really not benefit you. But for most of the organizations we're talking about, oh yes, a title is a free giveaway. If I can give you a title rather than money, absolutely. Here's 2 titles just for you. So understanding that piece of it, you could still maybe even get more money. Is there anything else that needs to be negotiated at the same time as this title? Vacation, need more vacation. The comp wasn't quite right. There seems to be missing bonus structure. All of those things you want to think about because we want to roll it into this conversation in some way, shape, or form. Even though we may negotiate those things one at a time, it's all within one conversation. So in this case, I might go back to them, dear Jack, Jim, or Jill, or if it's in conversation. Hey, good morning, Jack. By the way, thank you so much for putting together that offer letter for me. I'm so excited. I can't wait till I step into this role on October 4th or whatever that date might be. Gosh, it sounds like I'm accepting already, but you never heard yes. You never heard I accept. And then from all of that glory hitting towards crescendo, that's when I have to lower my tone, do a segue into a confessional moment. Jack, Jim, Jill, I just wanted to ask you, when I look at the package that's put together, and this is something that we really didn't talk about, the title really isn't at the level that is the right one for my career track. What can we do to move the title to X? Notice we went back to collective language the moment we're trying to problem solve. It's not what can you do for me? It's like, how can we solve this together? It's also a demonstration of when we work on complex things together. When I work there, this is exactly my approach, the encompassing approach, bringing the stakeholders together, trying to find a solution that works for all. We'd all like that deal that works best for us. Oh, that's a great deal for me. That's great. But to create a true win, it has to be a win for everybody. So everybody thinks they're getting something. By the way, if I might go for mention a little more money or a little more this or the title, very quickly they'll give you the title in lieu of those other things. So just understand you can get whatever you do need. Let's imagine one other scenario. Let's imagine that you now have extended an offer. You've gotten the offer. The offer is terrific, by the way. It's in the right zone, maybe the right zone where you don't feel like taking risk of negotiating. But at the same time, you haven't left your current employer. And suddenly the current employer may be going through a whole equity process and all this other stuff. And maybe even in your review, you might have even pitched for an increase. But there's all this stuff going on in the background. Suddenly we have this new offer from an outside organization at a right level. We have multiple options to consider. Do we take that offer, which is a very good offer, and take it back to our current situation to correct our title, salary, whatever is going on within that bureaucracy? Or do we use these two against each other to maybe even make that offer become more sweetened? I could go back and have the conversation with my company, although I had better be willing to take that new job and walk away from this one, because the moment you disclose to your current employer you have an outside offer, they begin to question your loyalty and will you stay? Or should I just pay you a little bit extra so I can replace you on my timeline? The vast majority of people that do take a counter offer are gone within 1 year. And there's a couple reasons for it. One is it begins to eat away at us. We get the offer, we get the counter offer. We're so happy we get to stay where we like. But then over a very short amount of time, it begins to eat away at us. Why weren't they compensating me fairly? Why weren't they respecting me before? Why did it take me having to walk toward the door to get what I've actually earned? And then people restart their job search and tend to leave. Vast majority go on within 1 year that take a counter offer. But if I did get a counter offer, that would allow me one more round of negotiations with this other offer. All things that I think you should consider. Just remember this: your goal is to step up onto the altar, very much like the wedding day, and they're saying I do by extending an offer. You cannot leave them up in that realm for very long. By the way, I don't care what the offer it says on the paper. It may say, oh, it must be accepted within 7 days. 7 days? That's a very long time. Most offers are not going to last 7 days. 3-4 days, and if I don't get the sense that this is going to work out, I withdraw that offer and it evaporates. So don't get a false sense of idea that, oh, look, I have till next Friday. Maybe you have till Monday or Tuesday. Let's keep moving this thing forward. Let's make sure that they don't take their eyes off of you, because at any time, even during the negotiation process, someone could be whispering sweet nothings into their ear. One last negotiation question we're going to take for today, and that is, what if I am stepping into a new role? I've got the offer, I've got everything else, everything looks great, the comp is right, title's right, but the way we've discussed the structure up until this point is really not the way I would like it to be. And not just from like, oh, I'd love it to be this other way, but mechanically this is not set up for success, and it really needs to be slightly restructured. Responsibility or reports could be a number of things. That's a discussion for me that only will happen once they fall in love with you, once they've picked you by extending the offer. And so as part of accepting the offer, I can say, my gosh, Jack, Jim, Jill, I really appreciate you getting the offer out to me and all the extra effort, and start date's great, by the way. Notice I didn't mention money, because money was okay. Don't thank them for the money that's correct money. Thank them for the start date. Thank them everything looks great. Thank them for the attention. Don't reinforce things that work against you long term. Then at that point, you simply segue over and go, one of the things I might like to discuss with you, Jack, Jim, or Jill, and we didn't really go into detail about this, during our initial interview discussions, is really the way the department or this group is structured. And, taking in the challenges that we discussed in our conversations. Notice I move away from using the word interview in our conversations. Those are consulting conversations where you're giving your wisdom. So taking everything from our conversations, I think for success, what really has to be considered is a structure like this. And I'd love to hear your thoughts on that. That opening salvo of that, not just I want it to be this way, but why does it benefit them? That's also part of the negotiations process. There are a lot of other negotiation questions coming up, and we're going to have a lot of them coming up. Check the calendar. We'll have 2 or 3 more of the Ask SelfRecruiter series of questions up here. If your questions aren't being covered, make sure to send them in. Just send any questions you may have related to job search, interviewing, resume, LinkedIn, whatever it might be, to ask@selfrecruiter.com. The best of those questions will all be included in this video series, and it will become a wonderful library for you that you can utilize yourself, share with friends, and ring, subscribe, all those things you need to click on. And we'll see you again very soon. Hope you have a great start to your weekend. Take care.